from Mequon. And next up will be Amber Schrader. The floor is yours.
Hello. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and I am testifying in support of AB 963. I am honored to represent not only myself, but countless Wisconsin parents who could not be here today, but who enthusiastically support this effort to strengthen the family and pass parental right laws that put Wisconsin families first. I believe this legislation serves a dual purpose of also providing some relief to school staff who do not have to feel responsible for every aspect of a student's life. As in Mequon-Thiensville, it's stated in our board documents, MTSD should be involved in every facet of a child's being. I do not believe that is the case. Shockingly, over the last 2 years, I have come to realize just how much parents have been frozen out of our kids' schools. We have been made to feel utterly powerless. The real power over our public schools is too often held by a select few, who I have come to learn have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. The message that parents don't have primacy over their child's education has been prevalent for years, and for too long we have stayed silent as out-of-touch administrators, school board members, and even union leaders behaved as parents aren't smart enough to choose what's right for their own children or for the children in their community. But with tragedy came triumph. As it turns out, playing politics with our kids was the bridge too far, and now parents are fed up with being disrespected and ignored. In this unfair system, we must put in place rules so that Wisconsin families can finally exercise the full extent of their rights. Stakeholders from my district and districts all across the state routinely reach out to me asking for help in filing open records requests and FOIAs. I hear a never-ending drumbeat of complaints about unanswered requests. I understand their frustration, as I too have been routinely told the information I request about curriculum, about many issues, countless requests. This information doesn't exist. It's unable to be disclosed, that I'm asking too broad a question. If I rephrase the question, then I will get an answer that usually restates what is in board docs, nothing more. I cannot convey the level of gaslighting that parents are forced to endure. Even in my district, when a stakeholder won an expensive and lengthy open records case, our district immediately went back to court and filed an appeal rather than fulfill it. A mom in Amory, Wisconsin, repeatedly requested to know how $375,000 of ESSER funding earmarked for mental health would be spent. She was put into contact with a lawyer by the district who told her that he was not required to disclose that information. A parent from Osceola, Wisconsin, so here's a Wisconsin, something that we were just discussing, repeatedly put in open records requests for a human growth and development material for her 7th grade son. She was told the class would focus on abstinence, so she agreed to let her son participate in the class. When her son came home with fruit-flavored condoms, she knew that she had been deceived. She is still waiting on that open records request, by the way. There should exist no veil of secrecy in K-12 public education. District administrations are not psyops and in secret operations. This isn't the CIA. We're not in a Tom Clancy novel. Every parent and stakeholder should have the right to transparency, to know how and where education dollars are being spent. It really should not be this hard. Disregard for parents and families has a top-down effect in education. Districts now operate under the notion that parents are not the clients they serve. Their concern is for the greater good of the community and the world. And of course, the definition of exactly what is the greater good isn't treated as subjective or open to a different interpretation. I am disheartened that education is increasingly driven by dogma. And what is the effect? Here are some things from my district. When masks slip below the nose of some kids, they are yelled at for killing their grandmas. Staff breaks down in front of kids. There was an instance of convulsive crying, telling kids their mother will die because several kids had their masks around their chin. A classroom was told that their irresponsible behavior will cause a wedding to be missed. One middle school boy whose mask routinely sagged, he had a lot of allergies, he was yelled at in front of his peers, grabbed by his arm, forcibly taken from his seat, put into an office where he was forced to Zoom into that same class. His apologies were rebuffed as this child was told to think about the need to protect public health. This child's family soon discovered multiple situations in which their son was shamed, humiliated, isolated, yelled at, and made to feel such anxiety and fear about his mask slipping or taking a drink of water in class that he no longer wanted to go to school. This family was utterly powerless. Just a few days ago, Ozaki Democrats published this resolution in a local newspaper. Whereas public schools have the responsibilities of parents when in their care. No, this goes too far. We do not co-parent with our school districts. We want to be partners with teachers and school administrators. Too often, the school establishment stands against parents like us who sincerely care about our children's education and their experiences while in school. This is deeply concerning to us. Schools should not be playgrounds for ideological disputes. AB 963 will help Wisconsin parents take back power, empowering them and improving outcomes for children. This legislation provides the opportunity for you to affirm the authority that should naturally exist between parent, child, and school. We all know that when it comes to raising children, parents are better than government. And that's the end of my testimony.
Any questions for this individual? Seeing none, we appreciate your
Thank
testimony,
you.
but I have a question.
Sure.
So a lot has been made of if we do something that actually outlines things that parents should know, that there will be this cascade of legal challenges to every single school district in the state. Since you're with a number of different parents, parent groups, et cetera, that are as frustrated as many of us are, can you just get a gauge? Do you believe that this will all of a sudden open a floodgate of litigation that every single school district will have? Or do you believe it'll have the opposite effect, where it will put school districts and boards on notice that they have to find different ways to interact with parents?
I think it will put school districts on notice, and that they'll have to seek guidance in how to properly work with parents as partners. There is this is a different era in education. Things aren't going to go back the way they used to be. Things have changed, and this needs to be accepted. And I think that, like I said, there are too many that have been in the field of education, running our schools top down, that just are not ready to accept this fact. And it is a fact. They are going to have to partner with parents, and they should just start getting used to it.
Have you, and many of your parents in that district, have you attended school board meetings, et cetera?
Yes, I attend every school board meeting. Many of the parents here do, and we engage as much as we can. 3 minutes once a month is all we ever get. 3 minutes of talking, no response. That's what we get. We don't, there's no engagement. I mean, when I talk to my local representative, I get a call back. I can meet in an office. Regardless, if they disagree with me, they will, make time to hear what I have to say. That is not how school boards operate. They operate not with viewing the parents as their partners, or that they were elected by stakeholders. They seem to think that it is their job to work with the superintendent and the administration. They'll do what's right, and they'll just let us know how it's going to go. And that's just not how it's going to go anymore.
So one last question, and that is, in the time that you've gone to these meetings, at least in your district that you've experienced, have you ever experienced anyone in the group that you've had, any parent that has threatened a school board member, any unruly behavior, anybody that has exhibited any signs of some type of intolerance on their
No,
side?
the only intolerance and yelling I see is actually the groups that oppose us. then I see yelling, screaming. I've witnessed some pretty interesting events. It's never with the moms, the mama bears, those of us who are advocating for our children. We behave in a way that is respectful. That's the way we would like to be treated, and that's not the way we are treated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Wickers has a question. Excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for being here and putting so much time into these efforts that you do, and for all those parents that are doing the same thing that you're doing. I'd like you to comment. You said something that kind of triggered a joint hearing that we had with the Senate here not too long ago, where the last teacher to speak after 8 hours of testimony said that the teacher said she was appalled that parents came to a school board meeting and called the teachers or called the school board members or the administration or the teachers' names, and was absolutely appalled. Then she concluded with calling the parents' names and calling them bigoted, uninformed, uneducated. And in the middle of her testimony, she closed the entire 8 hours by saying, and pointing at, starting here and then pointing all the way around to the senators, that in my classroom, I teach my children the truth. So
They teach the children their truth.
So, while you're here and you have the seat, is that something that you experience?
Never.
in-
I have never experienced a situation in which I am with a group of parents advocating for their children, advocating for our parents' rights, asking for transparency. Literally, I have held in my arms moms shaking, crying, because they've never done something like this. They come before the school board, literally just shaking, to describe a book their child has read or the depression their child is facing. A last school board meeting, there was a mom who was a nurse, by the way, who was describing how her child with special needs was struggling, wearing a mask and with the isolation and the constant quarantines and how hard it was for their family. And, you could just, her voice is breaking. That's all I see. The few instances where I have seen disrespect, and even those have been few. That is not the norm. But where I see very odd behavior, it is with the groups that are actually there to support the things that I do not support.
And while you're here, if I may follow up.
You may.
Thank you, Chair. So you've touched on this, but if you are willing to, when a teacher points at each one of us and says that she teaches her children in Waukesha County School, high school, she teaches her children the truth, and you're sitting there as a parent at a school board meeting saying, whether it's global warming, evolution, gay marriage, transgender issues, if they're teaching their children the truth on things that are theoretical
I would
or
say, what is
philosophical,
the truth?
religious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying that this legislation is giving you guys the tools
Yes,
that you need.
that we can ask, what is that? What do you mean by that? Define that. Can we see an outline of what your truth looks like? Can we see the resources? And not just the book that no one uses. No one is using textbooks in schools anymore. All of us know that. We want to know what is providing in Google Docs and the supplemental materials. And it's really just, it's not too much to ask. We are just asking to be involved and to know what's going on. And we're clueless. We haven't been in a school building, most of us, for almost 2 years. They don't even let us in. They don't let us past the front door. We have no idea what's going on. Then our kids are scared to death to tell us what's going on. And we finally find out, you just feel just so powerless. And then You come to school board meeting just to show and say something and stand for something, but nobody cares. They don't care. They look at you, they blink, and they're like, bye. It's disheartening, but it's going to change. It's going to change. This is not, the status quo is going to go. And, you know, this legislation will help that. It will help to reinforce to school districts that they must listen to parents, that we are the ones that are in charge of our children. And we want to work with you. We see you as a partner. We know your job is not easy. We know that firsthand, having had during the early pandemic when things were virtual. This is not an easy job, but we want to help. We're not your enemy, but stop treating us that way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, and I'll get in the swing of this. Next up,